Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kristian and today's session is exploring the shifting challenges organizations face with secure messaging. And joining me to tell me all about it is Ari Applbaum, VP of Marketing at LeapXpert. Ari, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Christian. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Me too. So let's kick it off. What are the biggest challenges organizations face in securing messaging and how have these challenges shifted in recent years?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I would say the messaging has become a dominant channel, but security hasn't caught up, right? So legacy governance, outdated tools, and untrained user behavior are creating wide attack surfaces. There's as you introduce more channels, the likes of WhatsApp, iMessage, WeChat, it's sometimes harder to define a clear security boundary, right? With employees in these different channels, they're on their personal devices sometimes, oftentimes beyond IT visibility. So what happens is, I think that security hasn't caught up. The approaches, the tools, the behaviors, the policies, they haven't caught up with the adoption. Messaging is used all the time for business communication, but security is lagging behind. And that's a dangerous situation to have because when you have that kind of gap between usability and security posture, that's where attackers pounce. And they have, right? They've adapted. They see the potential in messaging channels to get another way to get into an organization, and they're using it regularly.
Okay, excellent. Well, digging into some of these threats, how do threats like impersonation and data leakage specifically impact organizations using a consumer messaging app for client communication?
So if you take impersonation as an example, they exploit the informal tone. So when I'm on my personal device, BYOD, even if the company allows it, right? In my mind, it's a personal device. It's a more informal tone that I take on WhatsApp. And that's sort of where fake executives or impersonation of a client, then they'll jump in there and request fraudulent wire transfer or contractual change or some kind of a update or share in a casual chat. And that's where I might fall for it in a place where maybe perhaps with email I'd be more diligent, right? So impersonation, I would say they exploit the informal tone. Malware, that's just because there's everyday messages with attachments of images and files, and people are used to accepting them, and those things can trigger ransomware outbreaks. They can trigger malware and other ways to compromise an organization. Data leakage. I'd say again, employees are a little more casual. They're accidentally forwarding information, sharing screenshots, files, adding somebody to a group without thinking through it. That is the type of things you wouldn't have on a shared folder on the drive as much. So I would say new communication channels are compromising the business because they're now a new window into the enterprise and a window where oftentimes the measures are a little more lax. They're a little behind in terms of how strict they are. And again, that's where the compromises, that's where the attackers pounce on the opportunity.
Interesting. You paint this vivid imagery of this new ecosphere that companies are using to communicate with their customers. I was wondering, why is it critical for enterprises to capture and archive all communication across these multiple channels? And what are the main hurdles that have perhaps stopped them from achieving this in the past?
So that's a good point. I mean, in the question, you're saying something that's true, that the need to govern messaging apps, it stems not only from security needs. Today, we're talking about security, which is critical, right? But data governance overall. How do you govern this business critical data, the contents of the messages? How do you govern them? How do you ensure compliance with enterprise policies, with regulatory requirements? And there's also needs for productivity. If you let this data just flow and disappear, you're for sure losing productivity gains through AI and through workflows, automations, etc. So I would say, to answer your question, centralized capture enables compliance. Regulated firms have to retain comms across all client channels, including chat, oftentimes for 7 years. So record keeping, capture, keeping the data. The hurdle is tooling, right? Most systems weren't designed for messaging, so you need a platform that was built for real-time recording of content of messages and the metadata across fragmented channels in one place. And it's really hard to find platforms that do all that and are secure by design.
Okay, excellent. What about a single professional identity for employees? This is especially important as we're starting to connect with customers over different channels. How does this support both security and compliance objectives?
Yes. So, first of all, what is a single professional identity? It's this concept that no client should have to remember, 2 or 3 phone numbers for the same person just because it flows through a different system. Just because I want to send a WhatsApp message, I want to call, or I want to send a text message, SMS. Just because there's technological, boundaries that require that, it doesn't mean it makes sense for you to have 2 or 3 phone numbers on your desk, personal device, BYOD for these different channels. That doesn't make sense. So LeapXpert has actually pioneered this concept you speak about of single professional identity, which means you have one identifier, one phone number for each corporate employee. And that number works no matter what. You want to call, you call. You want to send a text message, good. You want to send WhatsApp or WeChat or Telegram or Signal, whatever it is, there is one number to use. So to answer your question, once you have that, obviously the main benefit is it just reduces friction. It's better communications for the enterprise employee and for the client. But it eliminates what I like to call the comms chaos, right? The fragmentation of all these different channels brings everything together. To answer your question, once you eliminate the comms chaos, it not only enables for frictionless, unified communications, it also streamlines governance, right? Because once you have a corporate number that handles all channels, it eliminates shadow IT, it improves the client trust, enables the unified security policies, the auditing, the supervision, the control, that layer that you can slap on top of it in one place. So you're also providing a lot more compliant and governed and secure communications.
I can definitely see the security implications by using a single persona. But I was wondering what other effective strategies or technologies for monitoring, alerting, and blocking security threats in real time exist when you're dealing with this sort of messaging across diverse messaging platforms?
So I would say, like I said before, it starts with centralizing the communications. Right? You need a platform that brings all your comms together, right? So the phone calls that come in through, perhaps Microsoft Teams with your SMS and WhatsApp, WeChat, Telegram, Signal, Line, brings it all together. Because once you bring it together, all the data is there. Then you can enable AI-driven monitoring, future-proof detection, and things on top of that content. So, for example, in November last year, we launched a messaging security package. Now that included all the things you would expect, like an antivirus, anti-malware, CDR for files. But we also launched a proprietary LeapXpert AI-driven impersonation detection solution, right? So once you have a solution like that, you can identify, using AI, you identify a pattern or behavior, a communication pattern that a sender has. I know that, let's say my client usually does not use emojis. He uses only lowercase letters. All of a sudden, if I get a message that's very different in style, LeapXpert can flag that and say, hey, this might be an impersonation. And that flags the CISO and the IT and the user himself. So you can catch these kinds of threats before they escalate.
Okay, fascinating. With this focus on compliance, with this focus on security, how can businesses strike this right balance between, compliance, but also keeping their communications client friendly at the same time?
So to keep that balance, I would say you want to adopt a solution that is secure by design. A solution that's secure by design that can balance the employee experience, so employees are not bombarded with yet another difficult system or platform, but something that they like and want to use, so that they will use it. Something that boosts the client experience, right? And at the same time is able to give you the enterprise governance, the security, and the control that you need to really sleep at night. On top of that, I would say you want to train your users. We spoke earlier about this gap between where the tech is and where the mindset is of employees and where the threats are. So tech is not enough. You need a secure by design solution with zero trust architecture that tests and validates every point. But you also need to train your employees, make sure they understand the risks, and that they adopt the company policies that will keep your company secure and safe.
Excellent. And lastly, looking ahead, what trends or innovations do you see shaping the future of security and compliance in business messaging?
So I think we're at a very interesting time, because until recently, there was enterprise employees everywhere were adopting the use of WhatsApp, of WeChat, of text messages, of iMessage, and other channels for business use outside of the control of the enterprise. That was sort of phase one, and it was a bad phase because many enterprises were turning a blind eye and just ignoring it and just saying, don't use WhatsApp, don't use iMessage. Well, guess what? Modernity never slows down for anyone. So if employees realize that this is a superior mode of communication, they will use it for work. And that's what has happened. That was step one. That lasted a few years, unfortunately. Step two is what we've been seeing over the last couple of years, which is adopting solutions that can balance the communication experience that clients and employees want with the need of the enterprise to govern everything, make sure everything is secure, etc. If you ask me what we're going to see in the future, I think now that all this data that was going to waste is being captured properly, being recorded, being archived and accessed for many purposes, the next phase is what we call communication intelligence. Right? So we have a solution called McCann that is able to bring all this data from different channels together and then use it to let you communicate better, to have better relationships, to strengthen the bonds between teams and clients. So I'm pretty convinced that that is the future, because once you realize all that data is really critical for your business, you want to do more with it. Today, the AI that's in place allows you to do just that, be more productive, do less grunt work, communicate in a smarter way, and really spend your energy on creativity, on trust, on relationship building. So I'm pretty convinced that the future from phase 1 to 2, phase 3 is going to be, and is already, is communication intelligence.
Excellent. I think that's a great place to leave it. Ari, thanks for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you so much, Kristian. Have a good day.
And thank you to the audience for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment and stay subscribed so you can be updated with more videos like this in the future. Until then, see you next time.